Welcome to My Family Academy, where we believe that the greatest history is understanding your own. Now, if you want to check us out and follow our channel, please hit that subscribe button and please hit that notification bell. If you would like to check out some of our merch, like the sweatshirt I'm wearing here, Black Men Matter, check us out at our merch store, Timeless Tees and Apparel.
All right, so I'm going to be going into some facts about Robert Williams' parents in this video. I'm going to be going over Lizzie Bohannon. It's actually Lizzie Buchanan. And I'm just going to be going over the facts over how she was married to Dan Williams, who was Robert Williams' father. That's who Uncle Dan was named after. But let me get into it here. Okay, so let's take a look at the 1900 census. We got Lizzie Russell. This is still her. Like I said, her name is actually Buchanan versus Bohannon, but it was common for them to, do a lot of misspellings in a lot of the different census records. So let's take a look at this right here. This her first husband was Russell. Her first husband was here. Sino Russell. So here she is, Lizzie Bohannon, and her spouse, Sino Russell. If you take a look here, Lizzie Bohannon, and they were married in Bowie, Texas, and her first husband was Sino Russell, but unfortunately he passed away at some time before she married Dan Williams. Okay, so that's why here on the 1900 census, her last name was Russell, because she was married to Sino Russell, and she became his widow because he passed away, but they did have a couple children. So let's take a look here. So the last name Russell will also be related to the Williams family. So we're related to the Russells as well. That's just an FYI. But we got Lizzie Russell. She was 21, born in 1878 in Texas, and raised black. You'll see some records on here that say mulatto. They would use the word mulatto when anyone was, lighter or fair skinned. So since I'm making this predominantly for the descendants of the Williams family, which is Walter Williams Jr., Robbie, Teresa, and all of your children, as well as even anyone from Uncle Dan, the Johnsons, and Uncle Robert as well, and of course Uncle Walter. So let's see. Yeah, so her mother's name was Anne Buchanan. That's why I said their last name was really Buchanan, not Bohannon. But again, just different misspellings on the different census records. Her mother's birthplace was Kentucky. This was her mom. Her mom's birthplace was Kentucky and Alabama. So Anne Buchanan's parents' birthplace was Alabama and Kentucky. Look here, can read, yes. Can write, yes. And this record is from 1900. Okay, so a lot of our ancestors were, not fitting the slave narrative that, we didn't know how to read, we didn't know how to write. This record clearly shows that this relative could read and write in 1900. So here was a household that she grew up in. Anne Buchanan, that was her mother. There she is, Lizzie R. Russell, at 21, after she married Sino Russell, and they had two kids, Burr Russell and Hiram Russell. And you see, she had them pretty much within a year of each other, so they were back to back. Okay, and as I said, Dan Williams was her husband. That's where Robert Williams came from. So that's where all the Williams family came from. Uncle Robert, Uncle Walter, and Auntie Ola Mae all the Williams, as well as Nathaniel, they all came from Dan Williams. So that would be your great grandfather. Let's take a look here at the 1910 census. So here we go. So we got Dan Williams. He was 42 in 1910. He was born around 1868. She was born around 1878. So he was about 10 years older than her. That seemed to have been like the common age. Like I noticed that both of Granny's husbands were relatively about 10 years older than her, between Robert Mitchell and Robert Williams. See again here, they put on here mulatto. So that's what I'm saying. Like they put that on some of these records if anyone was fairer skinned. So if you looked like Robbie or Teresa's complexion, Uncle Walter was very dark. He was dark skinned. He was my complexion. But if they were to see, Robbie or Teresa, who were a little more lighter skinned, like their mother, then they would say that they would have classified them back in these days as mulatto. And that was just basically off of physical observation, like I said, from a government representative who was more than likely white coming to these black neighborhoods and collecting census information and recording it. So this is basically about Dan Williams. So his spouse was here, Lizzie Williams. That was your great grandmother, the mother of Robert Williams. His father's birthplace was North Carolina. His mother's birthplace was Texas. Native tongue English, occupation farmer, industry general farm. It says here he was an employer. So this says right here that he owned his business. So that's a lot of where our entrepreneurship comes from in our bloodline as well. That spirit of the entrepreneur. It's something that just carries over through the generations. I mean, it's just was in my mother's blood. It's in my blood, and this is where it really comes from. So that's why I like to go through this information and share. So we can also understand where we get a lot of our traits and tendencies from. It's definitely inherited from ancestors. It's ancestral. Farm. And this is why Granny used to grow crops in the yard at the house that most of us remember, because they grew up on farms, and all of the men in the family, the husbands of both husbands, they were farmers. They were workers. So all this, I know stories get convoluted, but black men get demonized for being drunk and abusive and all that. Well, these men were hard-working farmers. So not saying whatever was done was right, but they also, as men, had the right to run their household the way that they ran their household, and that's just what it is. But especially when they were working hard to provide for their families. So years married, 9, enumerated year 1910, and so boom, here we are. Dan Williams, that's your great grandfather. Lizzie Williams is your great grandmother. Busall Russell and Hailey Russell, those were the children that she had from the previous marriage from Sino Russell, who passed away at some time. So she was a widow. And then Dan Williams, he adopted these children as his own stepchildren, the same way Robert Mitchell did for the Williams family when Granny moved to Seattle, and Granny and him moved to Seattle, and then had all of my mom and all the rest of the Mitchells, Uncle Bobby, whatnot. So we got Eva Williams. She was 6. See, Ola Williams right there. So Auntie Ola Mae was named after Robert Williams' sister. And then Uncle Dan was named after his father. So that's where the name Dan came from, and Ola. That was why Robert Williams, and here he is, he's only 3 years old at this time. So, we're talking about a long time ago. This is 1910. He married Granny in 1927. So, you see, he was 3 years old here. But it's important information to know. I hope this just helps other family members just have a little more confidence in just who we are as a people, and just knowing a bit more about where we came from. I think it's important, especially as we're losing more family members, unfortunately, to death. So I'm glad I'm coming across these records now and able to share with everybody. Let me pause here. And then just to kind of close out here, she passed away in 1960. She was relatively like about 80. She was born in about 1878. What I'm looking at here is actually for Dan Williams. This is basically the facts about him. So in 1960, he was like 92. So like I said, he was like 10, 12 years older than her. So yeah, he was 92 in 1960. So like I said, his birth was 1868. I got one source here. I don't know what source I have here. I won't go into that. But yeah, he was born 1868. So we're talking well over 100 years ago. So it's a lot of profound history for the family. I hope you find this informative, and just please take a little time to watch this video. And I got more to come. All right.